Hello, Leominster High School. I'm Jim O'Leary. I graduated LHS in 2000, and my dad now teaches physics at Leominster High. I've been in the software engineering space for the last 20 years or so, basically since I graduated high school. I currently run the engineering teams at Signal, the encrypted private communication platform. And part of that, I worked at Facebook on things like Instagram and Oculus. I worked at Twitter for a little while. I worked at Microsoft, and I worked at America Online way back in the day as well. I really enjoyed my time at Leominster High. I figured I had the opportunity to talk a little bit here. If you ever want to hit me up, you want to talk more, you can find me at jimmyo.com, JIMIO. It has various ways to reach out to me. I'm Jimmy O on Twitter. My DMs are open. I'm jimmyo at signal.org if you want to send me an email. But just reach out, and I'd love to talk to you about technology, programming, security, any of that stuff in general. I saw some prompts here, things that I could maybe talk about to be useful or helpful. One of which is the path to my career. And so when I was in high school, I got really interested in computer security, hacking, programming, all this kind of stuff. I took a few courses that were available back then around like basic programming, some math classes that I really enjoyed, and physics as well. I thought those classes set me up to have a good understanding heading into kind of engineering school after high school. So I went to RPI in New York. It was an engineering degree. I got a computer science and a psychology degree there. And it taught me a lot about programming in a more formal way. And then I went to Microsoft. I was fortunate enough to kind of pass the interview questions, get a security job there, and then do night school at the University of Washington to get my graduate degree in computer science. So I went from kind of Leominster to New York for a little bit, to Seattle for about 7 years. That's where I met my wife. We now live in the Bay Area, or Silicon Valley in California, and we've been here for a little over 11 years now, out on the West Coast. And so that's a little bit about, my path. I would suggest though, this whole world of computer security, programming and stuff like that, it's very accessible. If you're interested, you can check out some YouTube videos. You can get, writing code in Python or Rust or anything like that, without too much of an on-ramp. And so I think you don't even necessarily need like a formal computer science training or degree to get employed or get work or start figuring out what you might be able to do in that space. I'll also go back to high school a little bit. I had the chance to do an independent study in robotics. So me and a couple of friends kind of pitched this idea to our guidance counselors at the time, like, let us take a period. I think for the whole year we took a period off, and we just built a robot. This is before the robotics programs existed in some of the high schools and stuff like that. And then we took it to WPI. At first there was a science fair over there. It was pretty nerdy. It was pretty cool, and it was a lot of fun. And then we didn't like win the whole thing or anything like that, but we did well enough to go to like state finals or something like that at MIT, which is also just really cool. Like I think we ended up getting like in the third place category then. A friend of ours got first place for his magnetically propulsed submarines and things like that. But it was really cool. Like, it to me opened up this world of like enjoying the nerdiness that exists in life, and really embracing it. I think I've been fortunate to have a wonderful career, wonderful support from folks along the way, and it just has remained very, very interesting. So there's a little bit here on what my typical day looks like in my current job. I'm the VP of engineering at Signal, so I run all the engineering teams. I have the support of a bunch of engineers that passionately write code here every day to kind of provide encrypted private communications to people across the world. I'm just in charge of getting everything done, keeping the site up, keeping the app running smoothly. It's really enjoyable. There's a bit about what I like most about my job, and I think it's the opportunity to take all that I've learned in the kind of computer security, computer programming spaces over the years and turn it into something for good. I think that you can get the opportunity as a computer hacker kind of person to use your powers for evil and potentially, get caught and go to jail and all those kind of things. I would much recommend the other path, which is like getting a job doing this kind of stuff instead of risking a situation in which the passion you're following could get you into trouble, perhaps, in the computer hacking space. But yeah, the opportunity to kind of build some cool things, tools that we can give to the world for free, is really, really important to me, and sort of this positive impact on the community and society that I'm trying to be a part of now. There's one last little bit here. I have no idea. I feel like if I were in person, I could talk for an hour. I'd have some questions and back and forth. I think this is more just like an opportunity to invite you to reach out, talk more, from a fellow kid from Leominster who's out here in California now doing cool things in the computer space. But if there's anything I could recommend to you from a career perspective, from your time in high school, I still had my TI-83, TI-84 programming calculator. That was kind of the first time I ever wrote code that helped me solve a problem. It was like I could do my Algebra 2 homework in like 30 seconds if I just wrote a program that could do it all for me. And it was also neat because I could just sort of like share that same code with my friends, and they could like also use it to assist their studies and things like that. So it's interesting to find times when you think a computer can help you automate away some less interesting things. It's not going to help you on the test. It's not going to help you actually understand the way that these equations work and stuff like that. So always go back and do the work by hand afterwards. But I'd say find a way to help, find programming help you in your life. And then also, like, I don't know, take some chances, go out there. Like I've found that doing a summer outside Washington, D.C. was really cool. I went down to like all over the place. Like once you get into the computer world, it opens up a lot of doors for you, I feel. So like I was in DC, I was in New York, I went to Florida for some stuff. I went to India, been a lot of different places and a lot of cool exposure to things. All because I was like a nerdy computer programmer that liked to protect and hack into systems and stuff like that too. So again, I think it's just like a quick awkward hello from me. If you want to chat more, probably Twitter DMs are the easiest way to reach me reliably. I don't always stay on top of all my email, and like other things are like not so great. So JIMIO on Twitter in my DMs. And if you want to talk, you want to talk security, you want to talk programming, I can help you get an internship, get a job, anything else like that, let me know. Otherwise, take it easy, Leominster. See you later.
Hi, students of Leominster High School. My name is Lauren Brown Desmond. I'm very excited to be here today to talk to you about the company that I work for and my educational and career path. As you probably have guessed, I am a Leominster High School alumni. I am a high school diploma graduate from LHS, class of 2011. During my time at Leominster High School, I was very involved in my science coursework. Absolutely fell in love with the science of both biology and chemistry. And I really rooted those interests in my college search. And I knew that I wanted to go to a small college, university, where I could really richly immerse myself into the culture, become deeply connected with my college professors, and just embody the learnings of the natural sciences and figure out my path and where I wanted to end up in this world, this working world, utilizing my scientific expertise. So that led me to apply to a lot of different colleges, and I ended up going to Assumption College, which is now known as Assumption University in Worcester, Massachusetts. There I studied and earned my Bachelor of Arts in Biotechnology and Molecular and Cellular Biology with a minor in education. I was there studying from 2011 to 2015. During my time there, I was presented with the decision of, do I want to continue on and be what I originally sought out to be, a high school biology teacher, or work in the scientific industry and utilize my educational knowledge for different things, such as trainings, training new staff members, mentoring, peer mentoring, people management, things of that nature. So to help make and guide my decision, you can see below in 2014 and 2015, I interned as a lab assistant at New England Peptide in Gardner, Massachusetts. And there I really fell in love with the thought of working for an industry in a laboratory or close to a laboratory environment, and utilizing that scientific knowledge that I loved so much. So I decided to run with that, and my senior year at Assumption College, I decided to get a little bit more deeper in my biological sciences studies, and that's when I made the choice to switch from biology to biotechnology and molecular and cellular biology, and drop my education major and make it a minor. And so that was really a pivotal moment for me. And then I started to think about the career paths that I could potentially take with this biotechnology route. And in my career search, I was not searching for a company that was just going to give me a job. I did that, and I went on job boards and I applied to hundreds of roles that I didn't even know what cities they were in. And I realized pretty soon that wasn't necessarily the right decision for me. And I instead took a narrower approach where I figured out the cities that I was willing to relocate to, and within the city map figured out where the hubs are for biotechnology and biology and bioinformatics, and what kinds of companies are out there that I'm really passionate about. And so then I really narrowed my focus to, I'm not willing to just work for any employer. I really want to love where I work. And so I stumbled upon, at my senior year of Assumption, I stumbled upon the company Foundation Medicine. And as you can see, I started there in June of 2015 as a clinical bioinformatics analyst. During my time here, I earned a promotion to clinical bioinformatics analyst 2, and then I started to take on people reporting under me as a supervisor on the clinical bioinformatics operations team. And today I'm still employed with Foundation Medicine. It has been almost 7.5 wonderful years, and I'm presently a manager on that same team. And we will dive much more today into what Foundation Medicine does as a company and where my team fits into that. But before we get there, I'll finish my educational path and mention that while employed at Foundation Medicine, I continued my studies, and I did some graduate level studies in biotechnology at Harvard Extension School in Cambridge, Massachusetts in 2016 and 2017. That was a non-degree seeking path, and it was simply for me to get some more coursework under my belt that was really directly applicable to my role at Foundation Medicine at the time. And then I decided to switch gears a little bit to hone in on some of the skills that I would really need for my future career path. And I enrolled at Fitchburg State University, got accepted to their MBA program online. So I have my master's in business administration with a concentration in management, and I studied there from 2017 to 2018. And so that sort of concluded my more formal educational path alongside my career. But I will say that I learned something new every single day on the job. There's a whole lot of training that goes into, I would probably guess to say, every job when you get out of high school, get out of college, and you are really committing to this lifelong learning journey, and the learning just doesn't stop. And if you're anything like me, hang on for the ride, because it's going to be a great one. So next, I want to watch a quick 2-minute video with you, really about the approach at Foundation Medicine. You know, what are we all about?
When facing cancer, how can patients know they're armed with everything they need to guide their treatment? Foundation Medicine has developed a comprehensive and validated approach to reveal the genomic drivers of a patient's cancer, providing doctors an opportunity to match patients with targeted treatment options that may be more effective and less toxic than traditional chemotherapy. Our process begins by looking at genes, oftentimes hundreds, that are known to be associated with cancer, using a tool called Next Generation Sequencing, or NGS, to help find alterations in the patient's DNA that are causing the cancer to grow. Alterations can happen anywhere in a gene, and there are 4 major types. The building blocks of our DNA may be substituted, added to, deleted, duplicated, misplaced, swapped, or just plain broken. In all of these cases, the cells may end up working differently, causing a tumor to grow. While other multi-gene hotspot tests also use NGS, they typically use it to only look for 1 or 2 types of alterations in predefined parts of cancer genes. Hotspot tests, therefore, may identify common alterations while overlooking unanticipated but potentially important and actionable ones. By contrast, Foundation Medicine's portfolio of NGS tests include options that allow for more comprehensive and personalized results for most patients. We offer a range of genomic profiling services for patients with solid tumors, hematologic malignancies, and sarcomas, including a liquid biopsy solution. Our tests search cancer genes to discover the 4 major types of alterations specific to an individual's cancer. Some of our tests also look for specific genomic signatures, such as tumor mutational burden and microsatellite instability, which can help inform immunotherapy decisions. To find these alterations, Foundation Medicine uses advanced algorithms developed by some of the world's foremost cancer genomic experts and computational biologists. Our approach combines this expertise with our database of cancer genomic insights, one of the world's largest, to continually optimize and improve our algorithms, allowing us to efficiently and accurately discover the unique alterations and genomic signatures in a patient's tumor. We then issue an easy-to-understand report that matches a patient's personalized tumor genomic profile to currently available treatments or clinical trial options, if available. The end result: doctors have what they need to make a more fully informed decision. Learn more about the power of our comprehensive genomic profiling approach at foundationmedicine.com.
So as you saw in the video, at Foundation Medicine, we are all about transforming cancer care for the patients that we serve who are suffering from cancer, delivering a medical report to their physicians to better match them with therapies, targeted therapies, clinical trials, to act as a treatment plan and a roadmap to treat their cancer that may be different than the traditional standard of care. We also work with researchers, our biopharma partners, our pharmaceutical companies out there who are researching cancer for future drug discovery. What we are doing by providing these tests and test results to all of our clientele, our patients, our physicians, and the researchers that we're working with, we really are working with them to provide a deeper, more rich understanding of the genomic mutations that are driving the cancer. And that is to help individuals have more birthdays and families to celebrate with. It is about having physicians have better options for their patients. And it's about future looking, forward looking, innovative approaches for solutions to have more offerings of targeted therapies and drugs out there. So really our slogan is find answers, take action. And we strive to be your essential partner in cancer care. And we are grounded in the mission to transform cancer care each and every day. Unfortunately, a lot of us have personal ties to cancer and this terrible disease. And every individual and employee at Foundation Medicine is really connected to the vision and, really rewarded to be working here and playing such a role in this larger scheme of bringing purpose and new treatments and hope to patients with cancer. And so before I get into the Q&A, I will just mention from the video some of the duties that my team is involved in. And so you saw all those alterations that that were described in the video. And so what my team is actually the first team with the human eyes on the data from those next generation sequencing results. And so we are the first set of eyes on this data. And so we analyze the data to make sure that all the alterations that we detected are accurate, and also make sure that they're tiered appropriately for clinical relevance, so that medical report can be the most robust medical report that it can be, and so that we can provide it to the patients and their physicians to make the best choices possible in the course of a patient's clinical care. So it's really exciting to be a part of my team. I've been working for this company and on my team for 7.5 years. It has been an absolutely incredible journey. I analyze samples every single day. And since I took a more people leadership role as a supervisor and a manager, that has come with additional responsibility to also be a leader on my team and be involved in a lot of different people management techniques and support system for the team, training for the team. And so now my role has evolved into multifaceted, and I'm deeply immersed and enriched in the science that brought me to this company, and I'm taking on new responsibilities and learning management tactics. So I really love it. And I'll get into some of the Q&A. And then, of course, if you have any questions, you can connect with your teachers and reach out. So I kind of touched on this a little bit about the roles and responsibilities of my position, so I'll skip that one. But what my typical day looks like is nowadays I'm in a lot of meetings because that comes with the management piece of my role. But like I said, I analyze these samples, these individual patient samples alongside my team as well each and every day. And it is so inspiring to be able to open up a new sample and think like, this is another person with cancer that I'm helping today, and how many patients we touch on a daily basis, on a weekly basis, every month, every year. And in my role, I've touched thousands and thousands and thousands of samples, and I answer technical questions from physicians and our internal, customers, our other cross-functional groups in the company, and I'm considered a subject matter expertise of this genomic analysis. And so honestly, that is what a typical day on the job looks like. And that also contributes to what I like most about my job, is having this impact on both patients in cancer care and the scientific community. And I also like doing this alongside a motivated and passionate team. And then the management piece, I like to inspire and lead great people to do great things. And that is exactly what we're doing here at Foundation Medicine. And as a young student, I didn't really know what I wanted to do in the beginning of college, but at the end of college, I knew I wanted to use my scientific expertise to impact the oncology, the cancer community positively. And that's why I was so motivated to work at Foundation Medicine, and really happy that the job interview ended up working out, because it really is that positive impact on the community and society that drives you to wake up every single day passionate about my job, and ready to rock with the best team. So what kind of advice would I give somebody interested in pursuing a career similar to yours? I would say, of course you need to be employed after high school, after college. But my advice is don't just search the job boards. Find something you're passionate about, connect with people in the field that work in that field that you're passionate about, and find a way to sell your value and what you know and what you can bring to the table, and influence your future hiring manager that this is the right company for me, this is the right team for me, and I want to do this job because of all these reasons. And if you bring your whole, true, authentic self to the interview, I know that job or another job will work out, because I truly believe that everything happens for a reason. So please connect with your teachers. To this day, I am still connected with high school teachers, college professors. Everyone in my path has been extremely helpful and has gotten me to where I am today. And I believe that without a strong educational foundation, building this connection over time and networking, I believe I wouldn't be in the place that I am today. So I would love to serve as a mentor, a connector with you. Please get my information from your teachers. You can connect with me on LinkedIn, shoot me a message, and I'm sure that when the mentorship program kicks off for your STEM program, that anybody who's willing to be a mentor, some sort of communication will go out with how you connect with people who have roles in industries that you're interested in. So thank you so much for your time today, everyone. It was a real pleasure speaking to you. Happy STEM Week, students of Leominster High School. Thank you so much for having me. Please reach out if you have any questions at all, and best of luck in the rest of your high school and college and career journeys, whatever path you take. Thank you so much.
Hello, everybody. My name is Sean Boyden. I graduated from LHS in 2013, and I'm currently a fourth-year med student at UMass Medical School in Worcester. Happy to talk with any of you about med school, about pursuing a career as a doctor. If you're interested in that, reach out to me anytime. I would love to talk you into it if I could. It's the best job in the world. In terms of the path to my career, so med school is great because I think there's no one set path to it. There are some very basic requirements, but people have such a wealth of experiences before going into it that you can really do whatever you want, which is very exciting. Med school generally requires that before you go, you have to get a college degree. So I went to Tufts University. I graduated in 2017. There's no pre-med major for most schools. Most colleges just sort of have a set of pre-med courses that you take called a pre-med track. And that includes, introductory biology, chemistry, physics courses, organic chemistry, maybe a few math classes. But you take those and then you can either choose to major in a science field, which a good number of people do, or you can major in something totally different. As long as you take all the courses you need to take, you generally can do whatever you choose. Like I said, everybody has a very different path to med school. So, some people go right into medical school from college. Some people take time off. I would say it's more common nowadays, actually, to take some time off. That's what I did. I wasn't completely sure that I wanted to go to med school in my final year of college, so I decided instead to get a job. And I worked as a clinical research assistant at Massachusetts General Hospital in the psychiatry department. I worked there for 2 years and I loved it. I loved that job, and it was some of the best times of my life. And I think that for me, that was the right decision not to go straight into medical school from college. I really wanted to explore a little bit more about whether I wanted to go to med school. I wanted to start paying off my student loans. And I think that it's definitely not an uncommon path to take some time off. I know some people who took even more time, 5-10 years even, before they applied to medical school. In terms of classes from high school that help me most right now, anything science related. So biology, chemistry, physics, you will have to take them again in college. You will have to take them again in med school. So if you like those classes, you already have half of what it takes to make it through med school, because you will see that all that material again if you are interested in pursuing medicine. Definitely recommend taking a lot of science classes. So as I mentioned at the top of the video, I go to UMass, which is located in Worcester. It is the only state school for medicine in Massachusetts, which means that unlike other institutions which charge very high tuition, similar to college, UMass charges about half the tuition rates for state residents, which was a huge reason why I chose to go to UMass. And I think that almost all of you, as a function of going to high school in Massachusetts, and probably having lived here for a long time, maybe even your whole life, would qualify as state residents. Definitely something to consider if you're interested in med school. It will be a lot of student loan debt between college and med school. What does a typical day look like? I hate to say it, there is definitely no such thing as a typical day in med school, but I think that's also part of what makes it exciting. It sort of depends on the year. So med school is 4 years long, and it's typically divided into the first half and the second half. The second half is called preclinical years, where it's very classroom based. It actually is a lot like high school. You take classes during the day, you have homework, tests that you have to study for in your own time. You can do, extracurricular activities in your free time. It's mostly lecture based, but you also have some smaller group classes that are more hands-on. You do different lab activities, you do different skill sessions where you learn things like how to do a physical exam on someone, how to do different procedures, that kind of thing. And then once you are sort of in the third and fourth year, you go through what is called the clinical years. So in your third year, you do all the required rotations during the major fields of medicine. Surgery, pediatrics, psychiatry, neurology, general medicine. Really, you do a little bit of everything. So it varies a lot based on what specialty you are working on, but for the most part, you go into the hospital every morning. You work with a team that usually consists of one doctor, several residents, and several students. You are assigned anywhere from 1 to 4 or even 5 patients. You meet with those patients, you talk to them, get sort of the history of what brought them to the hospital, you do an exam on them. You then sort of talk with the entire team on rounds, which is basically just a meeting where the team discusses every patient and our plan for them for the day and what we're going to do for their care. And then the rest of the day, it sort of depends on what service you're on. So if you're on surgery, you might go to cases in the OR for the day. If you're on another service, you'll write notes or call different people in the hospital you want to see, the patients that you're following. It really depends. And then once in the third year, you sort of satisfy all the basic requirements. In fourth year, you have a little bit more choice in the rotations that you choose, because most people by then know what they want to go into in terms of a specialty. So myself, I'm going into psychiatry, and so I am doing mostly psychiatry electives on different psych services all throughout the hospital. Yeah, I think that's everything. What do I like most about my job? I don't know I guess it's not technically a job because it's a student, but I love what I do. I love being a med student. I think it is one of few fields where you can combine this extremely deep knowledge of science with the ability to help people, the ability to communicate with people during what is often a very difficult time in their lives. Nobody wants to go to the hospital. Nobody wants to see the doctor, especially when they're feeling sick. So, I think that for me, it combines something I love to do, which is help people and talk to people every day, with my love of learning, my love of science, and it allows me to apply my knowledge of science on a daily basis, which is just the coolest thing in the world. Advice that I would give to somebody interested in pursuing medicine, I would say if you're interested in medicine, take science classes in high school, think about taking science classes in college. If you really are interested in medicine and you want to learn more about it, see if you can volunteer at your doctor's office, even your own doctor's office. See if you can volunteer at a local hospital to get a sense of what it is like to be a doctor on a daily basis. That is really the best way to learn what it is and to determine if it's the right thing for you. I wish I had done a little bit more of that earlier on. Like I said earlier, I was not totally sure at the end of college that I wanted to go to med school, and I wish I had done a little bit more exposure. When I was in high school, I definitely did not think I was going to go to medical school when I was your age. So, I think that might have helped me, but really just, I think the biggest thing is to not get discouraged. A lot of people, I think, at some point or another entertain the idea of going to medical school. A lot of people want to do it and then hear how hard it is and might think it's not cut out for them, or they're not smart enough, or they're not able to do it for any reason. You should not make that decision lightly. Being in medical school is hard. Being a doctor is very hard. But if it's something that you really want to do, and if it's something that you think you'd be really good at, you should absolutely pursue it. Pursue it with everything you have, because it'll be worth it. And I would 100% say that it's been worth it for me. I have no regrets, and I love what I do. If you have any questions, if you are thinking of med school, if you want to learn more about what it's like, the application process, what it means to be a doctor every day, I'm more than happy to speak with anybody, more than happy to meet with anybody. Reach out to me anytime. Okay, thanks.
Hi, my name is Heidi Curry. I'm Senior Manager for Research and Development Culinary Innovation Team at Dunkin', leading the beverage category. So first, let me tell you a little bit about my history, how I got here, and then we can dive into a little bit more about the current role today. So first, after high school, I chose to go to college, and I did get my undergraduate degree in Bachelor's of Science within the field of biology. So with that degree, I did work within the pharmaceutical industry for about 4 years, where I was able to build on the skill set and knowledge of my biology degree, really developing strong math skills and how to run laboratory tests and baseline science projects in that facet. And I really did enjoy the job. However, I had a big passion for food and chose to get my culinary arts degree with an associate's. So I have the 2 degrees, culinary arts and biology, and I was able to combine those 2 knowledge bases and obtained a job at Dunkin' within the research and development team. So what is that? What does a research and development team do? So specific to my role and at Dunkin', it's about creating new products. It's about innovating, ideating, developing, and then creating a product that then can be produced and brought into restaurants all throughout the country. And that is the role of the team that I lead. So focusing on beverages, we brainstorm, we ideate, we create products that are all beverages that can go out into the restaurant. And how does science apply to that? And so within this industry, within my team specifically, we have a wonderful group of people that have both food science degrees. So it is truly the combination of food and science, and there are those degrees that are available. There are people like me on the team that have combination of degrees. There are other people who have taken different career paths to get here. And that, I think that's the wonderful thing about so many opportunities out there. It's not just one direct path to get to an end goal. There are multiple avenues. So I created
Hi, my name is Stephanie Petito. I am brand new here to the Leominster Public Schools. My path here to Leominster, I started out as a classroom teacher, probably for about 12 years, turned into an instructional technology specialist, in which I helped to support teachers integrating technology into their classrooms. Then I jumped onto the networking side of things, so I was running servers and cameras and all that good stuff. And now I am here in Leominster as the administrator of digital learning, with a goal of helping to bring more technology to the classrooms here. My educational background, I'm kind of all over the place. So I have, a degree in social studies. I have a degree in computer science. Couldn't really pick out what exactly I wanted to do. So I've been able to do a little bit of everything in education. So I studies for a while, taught computer science for a while, and here I am. High school classes that have helped me most in my career, I guess, I started having an interest in computer science when I reached high school. I always liked playing computer games, old school games like Diablo and StarCraft, things like that. So then I kind of dabbled into designing my own computer games. And I was fortunate enough to get a teacher in high school who was teaching computer science. And I kind of jumped in because I liked her. I'd had her for something else. I was like, sure, why not? Didn't really know what computer science was, but jumped in. Was able to take that, design, a couple of games and things of interest to myself. So I thought that was great. My typical day. So I'm on the educational side of things. So sometimes you'll see me in classrooms, working with teachers to help integrate technology. Goals are to bring a computer science curriculum here to Leominster Public Schools. So hopefully, some of you are going to want to jump on board with that. I do think the job would have a positive impact on the community because there is a great need for people who are interested in computer science, whether that's back-end development, front-end development, website design, game design. It's definitely a market that needs people. And it's definitely a fun concept, fun class to take. So I think that will be helpful here in Leominster. And just advice I would give in general, pursue your passions. Like I said, I was, social studies first, so cared about history and things like that, then kind of jumped over to this side of things. So you can kind of always find something that will fit your needs.
Hi everyone, my name is Dr. Brianna Hughes and I'm a food scientist. And my career started out in my mom's bakery where I learned to make bread, and I actually did a science fair project on the chemistry of bread baking. So that was really my first exposure, asking those questions like, what is it that makes dough form? How does it rise? How does it bake in the oven and turn into bread? Why does it brown? And so I asked all those questions, and I thought I wanted to be a chemist. So I went to college for chemistry, and my freshman advisor said, what about food science? And I said, what about food science? And that was really where it started. I ended up getting a bachelor's degree in food science, and then my first career was in the dairy industry, where I did a lot of microbiology. I plated a lot of milk, spent a lot of time looking at milk under microscopes, and even tasting spoiled milk, which, let me tell you, once you've done that professionally, there is no going back. I also was lucky and got to be a field technician too, which meant I got to drive all over the state of Maine visiting dairy farmers. And I drove everywhere from the southern tip of Maine all the way up to the Canadian border, spending time at farms, troubleshooting, checking issues they might be having, visiting their barns, equipment, and of course the cows, which was one of my favorite parts. And I also got to do some product development there, which was my first exposure to that. And what I did with that was we had to make a new chocolate milk. So I got to sample lots of different cocos and figure out which cocoa to use in the milk, how much to add, what the exact right flavor profile should be. And then the challenging part of how do you keep it in suspension? So if you make chocolate milk at home, you stir it and it settles out over time, and people don't want that in the grocery store. So those are all the kind of things that you answer as a food scientist. Lots of questions. How do you pump something through a pipe? How do you pasteurize it, make it safe to eat or last for a certain amount of time or have a certain nutritional profile? Why do apples turn brown when you cut them open but an orange doesn't? Those are all the kind of questions that food scientists ask and deliver answers to. And one of the things that I love the best about food science is it's a foundational science, but it cross-cuts so many different elements of science, whether it's engineering, whether it's sensory science, packaging science, chemistry, microbiology, straight up biology. There's all these different elements that you get to bring together, as well as non-STEM fields like marketing, sales, finance, business. I love all of that, and getting to work with so many different people where you get to communicate your science and bring it to life in a way that actually ends up on someone's plate. And you can solve real world problems because most food companies are in some way or another vertically integrated, or their supply chains are, where you're actually taking things, whether it's from the ground or the water or something, and you're actually transforming it and shepherding it through a supply chain and a process to bring it to people who need it. And I love that. Food's applicable to everybody. Everyone eats and everyone knows food on some level. So it's a field that I really enjoy and I get a lot out of. So from the dairy, I loved that chocolate milk project and I knew I wanted to do more of that. So I went to grad school. I got my master's and my PhD in food science. I went to Ocean Spray Cranberries from there, where I worked in product development and led one of their innovation teams, coming up with all kinds of new juices. Two of my launches were cran pineapple and pink cranberries. So you can go out and try those if you want and see some real life food science examples on shelf. Did a lot of packaging projects, shelf life projects, and some really neat other projects that came up that were pretty novel. And I loved that. I loved that a lot. From there, I went to the Town Dock, which is where I am now. I've been there about 3 years. It's a seafood company in Narragansett, Rhode Island, and I'm their Vice President of Operations, Supply Chain, and Quality. And what that means is I really just have my hands in everything. I have a really big team that works for me, and we cover everything from catch to consumer. So as soon as the calamari comes out of the water, all the way through to when it ends up with our chefs and consumers in their either home kitchens or restaurants. And we do everything from shelf life, quality, sourcing. We source from all over the world and we sell our calamari all over the world. So part of my job is working with governments. I work a lot with ports and supply chains. I still do a lot of product development with chefs on custom projects. And I also get to do research. So I partner with universities, I write grants, I sponsor students, whether they're culinary students from Johnson & Wales, or master's or PhD students that are doing seafood research. So I love that part of my job and doing grant writing and projects to further scientific research in food science in seafood. So those are all different things that I do. Again, food science really cross-cuts a lot of different disciplines, and that's one of my favorite parts about it. Advice I would give to anyone who wants to go into food science or STEM in general, or have a career like mine, is stay curious and say yes. There are so many opportunities that will come up that you can't possibly anticipate, and some of them will push you out of your comfort zone, and say yes to those. There's just so much out there, and it's a great opportunity to grow and learn and see how opportunities lead to one another, because you can't anticipate. So that would be my advice, is stay curious and say yes. So thank you for having me, and I hope that helped answer some questions about my career and food science.
Hey LHS, this is Melissa Fields, formerly Melissa Drury, LHS class of 2011. I am currently a lead project manager at National Grid, an electric and gas utility here in the Northeast United States. I work on the electric side of the business, where I manage a $150 million capital portfolio of electric infrastructure construction projects. I manage teams of engineers and construction personnel to build out the electrical grid of the future. I've always loved math and science. I've always identified as a big nerd, and during my senior year at LHS, my favorite subject was physics. During my college searches, my mom recommended that I major in my favorite subject. So I went on my college searches looking for schools and looking at their physics programs. I was accepted to Stonehill College as a physics major, and my plan at that time was to do a 4-year physics program and get my bachelor's. During my first semester at Stonehill as a physics major, I learned about their 3-2 engineering program in partnership with the University of Notre Dame, and I switched my major from physics to physics and engineering. I had to choose what engineering program I wanted to go into, whether it's electrical, mechanical, or aerospace engineering, and looked through the course offerings and found those offered in the mechanical engineering program to sound the most interesting to me. They were centered around energy and energy efficiency and design of energy efficient buildings, and that's what I chose to study. So after 3 years at Stonehill College, I transferred to the University of Notre Dame and spent 2 years there obtaining my mechanical engineering degree. It was through volunteer programs during my spring breaks at Stonehill and Notre Dame where it really clicked for me. I could combine my passion for math and science and my skills in that area with my passion for renewable energy and energy justice through the energy industry. Each summer, I tried something new. The summer after my sophomore year at Stonehill, I tried a research program. I applied to different summer research programs and was accepted to a research experience for undergraduates through Florida State University. That was a really great time, a really great learning experience, but I realized that research wasn't the path I wanted to take. I saw myself more in, a 9 to 5 outside of academia. So the next summer, I applied for internships, and I was accepted to an internship at Cumberland Farms and Gulf Oil in their corporate office in Framingham. I assisted the project managers there as they did environmental due diligence like soil sampling and oil tank removal from old gas stations. I found that I definitely liked the office-based and field work over research from my former summer. So I tried again for internships the following summer. The summer after my first year at Notre Dame is out in South Bend, Indiana, and I'm from Leominster, so wanted to come back to the Boston area for that summer. And I was accepted to a Massachusetts Clean Energy Center internship program. And the company I was placed with was Zapotec Energy, a small solar developer in Cambridge, Mass. During that summer, I supported the engineers as they drafted electrical one lines for rooftop solar connections, as well as assisted them in conducting feasibility studies for potential locations for solar around Boston University and out in Western Mass. Based off my summer research and internship experiences, I knew I wanted to head back to Boston after graduation and work in clean energy. Growing up in Massachusetts, National Grid was a well-respected, community-based company, and they offered a graduate development program, which is what I was looking for, a community of young professionals to grow with. I knew that my application would receive more attention if I was able to connect with alumni from either Stonehill or Notre Dame who work at National Grid. So I searched those alumni databases and reached out to everyone who was currently working at National Grid to make sure I introduced myself, let them know that I apply, and see if they could put in a good word to the hiring managers. So in 2016, I started my career at National Grid. I accepted a position in their customer energy integration department as an associate analyst. There, I helped develop key performance indicators and reporting measures to internal and external stakeholders about the company's interconnections of solar and wind. A few months in, an associate project manager position opened up, and I worked with my manager to offload my analytical work and take on my own portfolio of distributed energy resource connections. In my 2 years in that department, I helped our customers connect over 100 megawatts of solar photovoltaics to our distribution system in Massachusetts and Rhode Island. During that time, I also completed my master's degree in energy systems from Northeastern University's College of Engineering. I did my master's online while working full-time through National Grid's tuition reimbursement program. So summer 2019, I completed my master's program and took a promotional position as a senior project manager within electric project management. And after about 2.5 years as a senior project manager, I got another promotion this past spring, and now I'm lead project manager. I love it. I love what I do. I love that how I feel like I'm making a difference in my state, in my community, in the electric system that we'll all be utilizing for the next 50 plus years. I currently manage a $150 million capital portfolio of high voltage or transmission level projects, substation level projects, and distribution capital projects across our electric business. I encourage you all to pursue careers in STEM if that's what you're interested in, and definitely check out National Grid and reach out to me if you have additional questions or want to hear more about it.
Hi everyone, my name's Chris Burns, and today I'd like to talk to you about my career at Pfizer. I've been at Pfizer for about 15 years, and in that time I've had a number of different roles across the company where I've done everything from working hands-on in a laboratory to leading projects, to doing regulatory strategy, to my role now where I head up a group who's responsible for what we call digital strategy and knowledge management. So I'll talk a little bit more about what that actually means and what I do on a day-to-day basis in a few minutes. But first, I wanted to tell you a little bit about my background and about how I got to Pfizer. When I was in middle school and high school, I always liked science class. I liked biology. I liked chemistry. And so when I was getting ready to go to college, I knew that I wanted to do something that involved, lab work. I just didn't really know what. I went to a college called Rensselaer Polytechnic Institute in upstate New York. And there I found a degree that was called bioinformatics and molecular biology. And it was a dual degree where basically half the classes were kind of your traditional biology and chemistry classes where you learned the basics and you had labs and you kind of learned how to do lab work. But the other half of the degree was focused on using computers and technology to either understand data that was being generated from traditional lab experiments or using them to actually generate their own data. So for example, maybe you'd create a model of a protein and then you'd run a bunch of simulations on it to try to determine what that protein would do under a bunch of different conditions. And so for me, it was really the perfect combination of science and technology. And once I learned about that degree, I knew that's what I wanted to study. I didn't necessarily know what I wanted to do for a career, but I figured I'd worry about that once I graduated. So once I did graduate, I knew I wanted to work in the pharmaceutical industry. And I had a friend who was already working at Pfizer who told me about what was called formulation development. It sounded interesting, so I interviewed and I got a job, and that's where my career started. So formulation development, for anybody who doesn't know, basically means that you are working on drugs that are either in clinical studies or about to go into clinical studies. And we'd be responsible for testing the drug to make sure that it was stable, to make sure that it was safe, and to make sure that we understood basically how it was reacting to different environmental conditions. So the drug itself, the active part of the drug, is usually not all that stable. So you have to add things to it to help it stay stable over time. We add amino acids, we add sugars and salts. We add what we call surfactants, which are things that help kind of mitigate aggregation so that things don't stick to each other. But there's all sorts of different things you could choose from, and there's all sorts of different amounts that you could add. So our job was to basically run a set series of experiments, take certain measurements and help us to understand what types of sugars and what types of salts and how much of them we needed to add to basically make the protein happy, we'd call it. We wanted to find what conditions made the protein happy so that it was safe, that it was stable, and that we could then bring it into clinical studies and inject it or infuse it into patients so that we could actually see what it would do in a real world setting. So it was really a great way to start my career. I got to work in a lab every day. I got to actually handle, these products that could potentially save people's lives and cure their disease and treat their conditions. And I got to be a big part of it. I got to run experiments that generated data, that went into making key decisions. I got to learn lots of fundamental laboratory techniques. So, anything from learning how to correctly weigh and learning how to correctly pipette liquids to how to run really cutting edge instrumentation that I always heard about and learned about in my classes, but never actually got to use myself before. So it was a really great way to get introduced to the pharmaceutical industry and a really great way to learn kind of those fundamental skills that are always going to apply, no matter where you work. So after a couple of years of doing that, I kind of graduated from running the experiments to designing the experiments. So kind of took that next natural step forward where I actually had people who were executing the experiments now that I was putting together. My focus was always on when we could use computers to help us design these experiments. So, could we use statistics to cut down the number of things that we had to test in order to get to the same results? Or could we use programming, maybe Python or R or, any programming language you can imagine? Can we automate the processing of the data that we're generating to turn things around quicker and not have people spend so much time looking at it themselves? Are there ways that we can make that more efficient? That was kind of always my focus, and it worked really well. Laboratory data are one of those things that tend to be very time consuming to analyze. And so anytime you can bring some technology to bear, anytime you can bring some new tools to help with that, it's a really big payoff. So in my time kind of designing experiments, I came up with lots of ways to be more efficient, new analytical techniques, new data processing techniques that were all really, really helpful and really successful. And so because of that, I then got the chance to now lead projects. So instead of just designing experiments, I was determining the entire development strategy for new drugs that were either, in the middle of clinical trials or were coming into clinical trials. And just kind of by chance, I got this opportunity at the same time that our company was getting into what we called biosimilars. So in the part of the pharmaceutical industry I work in, which we call large molecule pharmaceuticals, a biosimilar is what you would probably think of as a generic medicine. So, if you go to, for example, CVS and you've got, name brand Tylenol, and next to it, you've got kind of the CVS brand Tylenol, right? That's the generic version. In large molecule pharmaceutics, that didn't exist until basically I started working on getting to lead projects. So not that I came up with this concept or anything, just the timing worked out, that there were new regulations that the FDA put into place. There were new laws that were passed, and it created a pathway for creating these large molecule generics, essentially. So that's what I started working on from a project lead perspective. I actually led the development of 2 different biosimilars, both of which are actually on the market now, which is pretty rare for anybody in the pharmaceutical industry. Most people spend their whole career, working on products that never make it to the market. I got super lucky and ended up working on 2 that, right off the bat got approved, which was a pretty amazing experience. So I learned a lot by being a project lead, not just the science and the technical side of things, and there was a lot to learn there, believe me, but also kind of the management side of things. How do you communicate with, the 30 or 40 or sometimes the 100 people who are also supporting this project? How do you manage team schedules? How do you make sure that people have their priorities, aligned, and we're all pushing in the right direction, and we're not doing things that are either duplicating each other's work or running in counter directions? So it wasn't necessarily a scientific learning experience, but it was a good learning experience for how to work in a big company and how to manage a team. At the end of my time leading projects, I began doing a lot of regulatory work. So this was writing the documents that would, for example, go to FDA in the US, or would go to the EMA in Europe. And there's a really specific way that these things need to be written. There's lots of regulations we need to follow. There's lots of laws and rules and guidance. And there's very specific ways that you need to word things. There's very specific ways you need to communicate things. And that was another good learning experience for me, to learn that it's not just about knowing the information, right? As a project lead and as an analytical scientist, I knew all the data, I knew everything about the assays, I knew everything about the product. But understanding how to then communicate that in a specific way was a really valuable skill. A lot of times what would happen is somebody would just assume, that a regulator, somebody from the FDA, just knows all of this fundamental stuff that we all know because we work in the industry. And if they don't include that in their reports or in their summaries or in the correspondence they send, it causes a lot of problems. So I really had to learn how to clearly communicate, how to word things or write things in a way that was very, very clear and very straightforward. And it also taught me how to ask, I think, good questions. A lot of times when we are, talking with inspectors or with regulators from these regulatory organizations, you have to know exactly how to ask the question you want to get an answer for. If you don't ask a good question, you're not going to get a good answer, and that might lead you off on totally the wrong path. So again, it wasn't really a scientific learning experience for me, but it was a good life learning experience, and it was something, it was a skill that I still use basically every day in my current role. And so, like I mentioned, my current role is that I lead a group who's responsible for digital strategy and knowledge management. And it's kind of a vague term, it's kind of a broad bucket, but basically my group is responsible for anything related to new technology coming into our analytical research and development department. So this could be anything from new data processing software. So I'm working on a project right now where we're looking to automate the analysis of huge amounts of data. We have experiments where we're generating 500 gigabytes to a terabyte of data every day. And we need somebody to go in and look at all that data and find a way to process it and get the results we need. So obviously a person's not going to be able to do that. So we're looking at ways to use computers and AI to help us analyze that data and give us the results we need. To things like automated visualizations. So, do we have easy ways to get what we would call metadata in front of people? So, for example, how many projects are we currently working on? For each of those projects, how many samples are there? How many analysts are working on them? Which lab instruments are they using? Which labs are they working in? All stuff that you as a person could probably figure out by going around and talking to people and asking people. But we've come up with ways to just automate that, to just get that data from our systems and just create graphs and charts and figures and visualizations that get people the information they need intuitively, efficiently, and without needing to spend all day, going around asking questions. And so for anybody who's considering a career in the pharmaceutical industry, or even thinks they might be interested in learning more about pharma, I've got 2 pieces of advice. The first one is don't limit yourself. What I mean by that is a lot of people assume you have to be a scientist or maybe a doctor to work at a drug company. But that's not true. There's certainly plenty of jobs for doctors and scientists at drug companies, but there's also plenty of jobs for people with all sorts of other backgrounds. Things like being a graphic designer or a writer or an accountant, a lawyer, a heavy machine operator, an electrician. Pretty much no matter what your background is, there's probably going to be a role for you at a drug company where you can be a key contributor and you can help us develop new medicines and get them to patients to help treat their diseases and save their lives. My second piece of advice would be that if you're going to work in the pharmaceutical industry, you're going to have to learn how to deal with failure. It's an unfortunate reality of working in industry, but it is the reality that more often than not, our drugs are going to fail. Often it's not because anybody did anything wrong. It's just part of drug development that you'll never know whether or not something's actually going to work until we actually test it in patients. And so learning how to deal with the failure of a program that you may have been supporting for years, working days, working nights, working weekends to try to get it done, it can be tough and it's definitely a skill. But the important thing is that we always try to find a positive to pull out of it. So maybe your drug failed, but you learned some important information about analytical techniques or about formulation conditions that you can now apply to future projects and help increase the chances of them succeeding. So it's a tough skill, but it's an important skill. And it's something that is kind of unique to the pharma industry because there's not many other industries where you fail as often as you do in pharmaceuticals. So that sums up my background and my career at Pfizer. Hopefully what I talked about today was interesting and was helpful. And I wanted to thank you all for giving me the opportunity to talk today about what I do at work. I do work locally, so if a career in the pharmaceutical industry is something that you're interested in or just something you've got more questions about, you can certainly talk to your teachers and they can get in touch with me and I'd be happy to answer questions or make another video or talk more about it. And I would definitely encourage anybody who thinks they're interested to pursue a career in the pharmaceutical industry. It can be tough, it can be stressful, it can be challenging, but it really is the most rewarding career I could imagine having. Just knowing that, my daily work and my daily efforts are helping to treat people's diseases, or in some cases, save their lives with some of our new drugs that we're developing, really is a special feeling that would be hard to come across anywhere else.